The battle between Tesla attackers and Tesla supporters is heating up. Today, we'll cover the recent attacks and misinformation. First, Reuters is reporting that the new affordable vehicle will be a smaller version of the Model Y at 20% lower production cost, but that it will not come out until 2026. Should we believe this? Second, popular YouTuber Mark Rober had a viral video showing a Tesla car smashing through a fake wall. We've later learned this was all a setup, and he might have deliberately faked all of this. He didn't even use full self-driving, but a 4-year-old autopilot, which he turned on at the last 3 seconds. Plus, there are reports he was paid by a LiDAR company. Third, we have the ex-CEO Waymo, who's saying Tesla might somehow fake the Robotaxi service. These are just some of the attacks currently being done on Tesla. Good news is we have some supporters also, with a new Forbes article and Kim Kardashian sharing more photos with her 357 million followers. Jeff Lutz is a multi-decade supply chain executive, chief quality officer. He's now CEO of his own high-tech manufacturing consulting firm. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, Herbert. Let's hit it.
Let's hit it. So first off, there's a lot of confusion. I mean, we're all trying to figure out too, when is the more affordable vehicle supposed to come? The last quarter earnings call, Tesla's reiterated that it's going to be in the first half of 2025. Many of us were saying, hey, are we seeing this or not? There's a new Reuters article. Let's cover that. So first, there is actually a spy shot. This is the first time we saw something like this. We knew it should be coming soon. This is a Model Y, and it looks like it's been camouflaged in the Bay Area. You can see that here. We don't know if this is a smaller version of the Model Y. Is this just the performance version? And then at the same time, we're also seeing new roles, hiring. Tesla's beginning to hire engineers for their new vehicle platforms. And Dalton believes this means that cheaper models that begin production in the coming months. So this supports that it's still on track. Here's manufacturing engineer. Tesla, you will be working with new vehicle platforms, will be responsible for low volume equipment design and implementation, as well as supporting transition from low volume to high volume production. So it sounds like, it's still on track. What's your thinking so far, Jeff?
Yeah. So, and there's several introductions that Tesla is doing. Obviously, they've revamped the Model Y, all new Model Y, to take all their lines down, had to bring them up again. That's what they went through January. That's done. Now it's off into production. I think that's going to form a base for these new affordable models, where, as Tesla said in their earnings release, that they're going to grab some of the modules from the upcoming next generation platform, because those modules were designed at much lower price points, cost points. So for example, the new motors, the new inverters, the new battery packs, potentially. The battery pack may, though, be more aligned with the Cybercab. We'll see. Obviously, they've taken a lot of the capacity down because they've taken a lot of the mass of the car down. But back to these new affordable models, anytime that you have literally thousands of components coming together that have to form a new vehicle, all it takes is, and you've heard Elon tell, all it takes is literally one component that could cause a delay. But I think the way to look at these things is, if you're following the company, is the following. And I'd have the same conversation too about unsupervised FSD, and I'll go through both examples. When the company is talking in broad terms of like next year or in the future, that has a very wide swath to what it could be and what it could mean. And it also has very wide variation in terms of what it could be in terms of introducing the product. The other things companies do is they'll have a launch event, they'll have some phony launch event or some real launch event, and they'll hand over keys to the car, they'll do something. But you never really know where they're at in terms of mass production. And Tesla tells you, they basically tell you about launch events. They tell you about the introduction. Sometimes it's on the website, sometimes whatever. But these are all meaningful things. But mass production is when you're getting everything running up at rated speed. So in these new affordable vehicles, to answer your question, I think they're going to be in volume in the second half of the year. And that's all I can do is go off of the guidance of what the company says. And that's what they've said in their most recent earnings, is they would be entering production, in the first half, maybe the end of the first half of this year. And again, I want to caution people with this. Again, we don't know. We're just reading the same public things everyone else does. But if I were to apply just a layer of understanding of manufacturing complex products, is that now that they've narrowed it down for you, now this thing is not going to be moving in years. It's going to be moving in weeks, maybe a month or two here or there in either direction, most likely out at this point versus, them pulling something in like this. We have seen them pull in launches before, but it's rare. But my short answer is they may start production in the first half of this year. It may move plus or minus a few months, but we're down to the real golf term, the real short strokes versus we're teeing off and we have no idea where this ball is going to land. It's really narrowed down. So my final answer is they may enter production, one of these affordable models, in the first half. But the thing that really is meaningful is money and volume production. And money comes from volume production. Money doesn't come from a launch event. Money comes from volume production. Yes, analysts react to it. Wall Street react to it. Sometimes those things are short-lived. But what they want to see is they want to see the volume coming out of the factory, and they want to see cars being sold. And that is volume production. I believe that'll be in the second half of the year.
Yeah, you're still saying second half of the year, and I like that you just saying put everything in perspective and context. Let's continue to listen to what Tesla has shared with you, which is they're saying that the volume production will happen second half of this year. You got Reuters. We know Reuters has been wrong many times before. Sometimes there's some pieces of what they say is correct, but many times what they say is completely wrong. Here they've sent out this article. Tesla plans Model Y costing at least 20% less to produce to defend China's share. Decent. That's fine. But basically they're saying here, low-cost version to be built in Shanghai from 2026. Shanghai output mainly for China market. Version will also be built in Europe, North America, source says. So it looks like there's 3 people with knowledge of the matter said that they're going to be lower cost, which we already knew. It's going to be project codename E41, will be built it using existing production lines. So the only really big kind of potential interesting new information here is that will begin its biggest factory at its biggest factory by output in 2026. So instead of earlier, but I think maybe you're right. Like they're saying, are they talking about mass production? And that's always fine. That could be the case. The car will be smaller. So they're suggesting that it's going to be a smaller Model Y and cost at least 20% less. Yeah. So let's see. The people decline, of course. And then, so basically here's the summary. Thank you, Tesla Newswire. Codename E41, smaller than new Model Y, 20% lower, using existing production lines, Giga Shanghai first, starting in 2026. Now, you came back and said, you replied to that saying, I'd recommend sticking with Tesla's plan where they write a paragraph in the last 4 earning decks, but launching more affordable vehicles in the first half. That's this, you just remind people, this is the, don't listen to Reuters articles necessarily.
Well, first off, you never know. In these articles, there could be nuggets of things that they're finding. First off, nobody should care about the internal names and code names of products inside of companies, but they like to do that to validate themselves. But nobody should really pay a whole lot of attention to that. In terms of the cost reduction, I don't believe Tesla would be doing more affordable models unless it was greater than around or greater than 20% reduction. You want a meaningful reduction because inside of the normal procurement and engineering change process that you do on an existing vehicle, you should be able to drive anywhere from 8 to 10% reduction per year just by blocking and tackling growing volumes, negotiating with suppliers, driving efficiency changes in the factory, driving engineering changes to the product. You should be able to do that inside of an existing product just by learning more about it. So why would you trigger a new model? You would trigger a new models when you want to drive something greater than that in 20%. The other thing people should understand is a Model Y built in the US and a Model Y built in Shanghai, there's probably easily 20% difference already in terms of cost structure. So what they've got to be able to do is they've got to get this new model with new design choices and a new production method that would be a net 20% down in the US and a net 20% down in Shanghai as well. And here's the dangerous thing for the competition. The dangerous thing for the competition is Tesla's not played below the $30,000 US dollar market in China. Li Auto, BYD, everybody else, they've had a field day. They've had this space all to themselves. So when Tesla enters the chat on that one, I think it's going to be devastating for them, because in the price tier that Tesla plays in the 30 to 40 and above 40, they are crushing them. Remember that. So to me, there's a very interesting competitive and TAM dynamic that happens when Tesla introduces these models. The other thing that these models do is they take a little bit of air out of the risk of the next generation Cybercab. And the next generation Cybercab is fraught with all this risk. Brand new production method with unboxed, and brand new modules that they're now bringing forward into this model. So that was fraught with tremendous risk by doing that, and by pulling these models forward, they definitely de-risk doing that.
Thank you for that. So that's good. It's a Reuters article. We don't know how much of it we can believe, but yeah, your guidance is, let's stick with what Tesla said until we hear otherwise. Some of this could be right, some of it could be wrong, but what do you do with something like this? Okay, so now we have a couple really just, big hits on Tesla. This Mark Rober is a popular YouTuber, and he had a viral video. It's like 10 million views now. Came out and he said, "Can you fool a self-driving car?" Now it's turned out that it's in partnership with a LiDAR company called Luminar, and they're trying to make Tesla look bad, make themselves look good. They created this wall. First of all, why would you do this? That can you fool a Tesla self-driving car? And so they made a fake wall, but it looks like that the road continues on, right? And we learn a lot of things that this is actually, there's a lot of interesting information we've learned now to make it look like that this was really a setup. For example, Luminar's website was actually showing that they actually sponsored that company, that video. And then, so let's listen in. So the first one here is,
well, Herbert, I think we have to be clear. We have to be clear on some of this stuff. We do not know the exact.
We don't know. It's
relationship. It was on their website, and then they took it off. We don't know if this is why there should be some discovery in this matter. There's people that's talking about, oh, just work on the product and move on. You can work on the product and move on. AI engineers can continue to work on Tesla AI and make that move on. But it doesn't mean that the legal team shouldn't take a look at this and see, is there something behind this or not? But please, proceed.
Yep. So let's go through some of the points here. So first of all, this is
by using the more conservative autopilot on the Tesla for all the remaining tasks. I'd be even nicer by using the more conservative.
So he started off saying that he's nicer by using the conservative autopilot instead of the most recent full self-driving. So that's a complete right there, setting it up the wrong way right off the bat. It's
I don't know how much spare time we even need to give these videos. They did a setup that's not representative of real life. 1, 2, they used 4 or 5-year-old software from Tesla to run their test. 3, it doesn't even look like it's on. It wouldn't let you drive in the middle of a double solid. It wouldn't let you do that. It would have, the red hands would have come up and would have stopped. And then they engage it 3 seconds before, a couple seconds before hitting the wall, or did they? We don't even know. There's movement of the steering wheel. It didn't look like a very controlled objective test. Okay. And I don't understand. I don't understand why they used a branded company, by the way. They used brands, I guess, on both sides, but then they had no Tesla representatives on the Tesla side. I find it strange. They didn't use a production car on the other experiment. That's not a production vehicle I can buy with all that gear on top of it. So I don't understand what they're doing. I understand why. The only thing you can think of is there's money. There's money coming in to do these things. Obviously, it got a lot of clicks. But the question is there money in the production value of these things? Was there money coming in to do, and are there more of these coming? And that's why I think it's important, especially as Robotaxi nears, as FSD unsupervised appears. I think there's an appetite for more of these videos. So I think Tesla needs to take action in terms of, Yeah, there's going to be a lot of videos on the internet. Get it? And there's people going to be taking hits at you all the time. The question is this thing constructed? Is it funded? And is it meant to be purposely devious, or are they really trying to do an objective science experiment?
Well, so we're going to show you two videos. The first one was the actual video that he showed on the YouTube channel. And you can see here that autopilot was not even turned on. And thank you to Meet Kevin. He broke this down frame by frame. The second video was Mark Rober himself replying to the uproar, everybody's saying, and he said, here's my raw footage. But in that second video, he turned on autopilot 3 seconds before, and it wasn't the same video that they used in the actual clip, which means that they did multiple takes. So let's watch Meet Kevin's analysis here.
Uh-oh. Wait a second. There's the wall. Right here's the wall. It appears autopilot is off again. Frame by frame, no autopilot as it goes.
Yeah. So there was no autopilot on the original video. Here's his release, the other video that he then shared afterwards. You know, he said this. Hold on, here we go. This is the raw footage of my Tesla going through the wall. Not sure why it disengages 17 frames before hitting the wall, but my feet weren't touching the brake or gas. So he's trying to say that it disengaged before hitting the wall. Okay. And then here in this video was not the actual video that he played. And you can see that he actually turns it on 3 seconds before it actually started. So let's watch this.
Here we go.
It's not on. He's trying to turn it on. He turns it on right there. That's when he turns it on. Like you're literally 2 seconds.
Shoot!
So, oh, brother. So clearly, like you said, they need to examine what's going on and maybe, you know, lawsuit or something like that. AI driver said, thank you for this video, but this appears to be a different clip where autopilot was activated much later than it shows in your original video. Why does he do this? Does this mean you ran this test multiple times? And while you're here, can you also comment on why FSD wasn't used instead of autopilot? Use autopilot. Alexandra Mer saying, you know, not sure if it's worth our time and effort to go after Mark Rober. Tesla's lawyers probably start with a cease and desist tomorrow morning without us nagging them. But yeah, it's clearly was so set up. We'll see.
You know, imagine there's real data that Tesla's published in terms of the number of accidents on both autopilot and FSD, and I think it's the numbers around without autopilot or without FSD. I think 1 in 700,000 and miles, and now it's almost 10 times that with FSD on. So imagine. You know, you think this is, I mean, a lot of what people do on YouTube, especially with these high volume, high subscriber accounts, is they try to push the limits on these things, and they try to look at what's going on in society, and they try to push the boundaries of things to attract viewers. But imagine trying to turn people off of technology that could save thousands of people's lives per day, and imagine feeling good about like you made some sort of revenue on YouTube trying to do that. We have to really stick with what are the published facts about it, and then of course we want auditors, we want regulators. There should be regulators, right, for this type of thing. Forget about the YouTube video, but just bringing this technology out to market. We want it to go through thorough regulator review. We want understand everything, but the data is the data. When this system is engaged, that we know the miles that are driven, and we understand instantly, by the way, if the vehicle has been in a collision. And so there's real data out there. And imagine trying to spoof that and trying to get people to believe that, you know, something like this phony styrofoam wall. And then you have all these questions about just how the experiments run. If you're really objective and you really want people, you know, to view your product and to view the videos you're doing, now you have to call in the question, all the videos that some of these people are doing, and are they all, you know, questionable like this of the sort. So anyway, there's lots of claims flying around. I think we should just go off of what the data is and what's happening. It's a very bizarre video. Again, to have one branded partner in a video, not have another branded partner in the video. And then, you know, the whole setup, the whole thing is very strange. It doesn't look objective, but let's see what happens with this going forward. But there's a strategy out there around this potentially, and I think we should just be aware of it and understand and how to separate signal from noise. And I'm glad that the community, we have this great, vibrant community, just go in, analyze things, dissect it, put objective questions out there, trying to drive objective answers, and then we'll take it from there. But I could see some of this kind of stuff ramping up in the future, and I think there needs to be a strategy. Not like stop the presses, like this is the only strategy you work on. Tesla engineers work on the product. They make the product as good as possible. It's fine. These are other people in the company that should give a few seconds of thought about how to deal with the brand perception of their product. But I wouldn't read too far into this at this point. This will move. This will fade away. The experience, the overwhelming experience, the overwhelming sentiment on 13.2.8 and this whole V13 series is, people having jaw-dropping moments using the product. And then we're seeing the minutes rise, we're seeing the usage rise, we're seeing the miles rise. And that's where the data is really foretold.
Yep. If you had done a fair trial and you're trying to prove one point to the other, that's fair. But this is clearly not the case. It was off when it had to hit. Why would you do this? And why would you fake it? Why would you do something that doesn't exist in real life? Trying to prove that one technology is better than the other, but you've did so much work on it. So there's a lot of attacks. Here's another one. You've got Electric publishing this article. Fred Lambert is known to be a Tesla Q at this point, just saying all sorts of things that are not correct. He interviewed former Waymo CEO apparently said about Tesla's Robotaxi launch that there are many ways to fake a Robotaxi service. Very interesting when you've got the Waymo guy saying this, because guess what that means? That he knows how Waymo might have faked a Robotaxi service. So this guy, John Krafkick, longtime CEO of Waymo until 2021, and auto industry veteran, explained why Tesla's Cybercab won't work in a new interview and went as far as suggesting that Tesla might fake its upcoming Robotaxi launch in Austin in June. Highly respected leader, according to this Fred Lambert, mechanical engineer working at NUMMI, GM Toyota factory, 14 years at Ford. He's known for leading Waymo from 2015 to 2021. And he retired from the company in 2022, now sits on the boards of Rivian and Daimler Trucks. This is what he said. If a company were serious about building a safe Robotaxi business, the Robotaxi wouldn't look anything like this prototype. A serious Robotaxi would demonstrate the primacy of safety. The manufacturer would place sensors in optimal positions on the roof, as well as on the sides and corners of the vehicle. These sensors would also have cleaning and drying functions, windshield wipers, compressed air nozzles, and so forth. A serious Robotaxi also wouldn't have a slung coupe body design. This design makes it difficult for people to get easy and out. No, not everyone will be able to use these Robotaxi vehicles comfortably. Almost all of the challenging circumstances and vulnerable road users found in cities also exist on highways, only less frequently. We've seen cyclists, scooters. The rarity doesn't make things easier. Okay. So he says, when talking about Tesla's Robotaxi in Austin in June, he said there are many ways to fake a Robotaxi service. So a couple things. He made trying to attack the design of the Cybercab. But this thing about faking a Robotaxi service, I mean, this is something I've been saying for quite a while, is people don't realize. They go, Waymo, hey, I ordered a Waymo that comes to me. I get in, there's no driver. My God, this is self-driving. What they don't tell you is how many people are actually remote driving the car. It could very well be 1-to-1. There could be a remote driver. And so for Waymo to say there's many ways to fake a Robotaxi service, that's what I think he's meaning, that you would have remote drivers driving the car, or at least carefully supervising it, and everybody thinks this is a real Robotaxi service.
Well, first off, he doesn't speak for Waymo. He doesn't. I don't speak for Waymo. I don't speak for any of the companies involved. But what I would say is, if you parse the interview, there's a fundamental difference of opinion both on technology in terms of how to get to autonomy, and then there's a fundamental difference on business model. And if you notice, during his tenure, they never got to a business model that was viable. And I don't know where the business model is today, but they never got to a viable business model. And this, I want to describe to people, forget about all the companies involved in this particular conversation. There are a list of companies a mile long who have had some of the greatest ideas, some of the greatest prototypes, some of the greatest inventions in the world. And it's not something, they even call it going to mass production, they even call it like, oh yeah, we went into production and there's some limited run. Just, you can think in the last, just couple of years about, even there's some very high profile companies too. Apple, for example, putting these $4,000 devices, you wear in your head, they're not real production. They're not real. There's not a real business model yet. Some of these things are too early. Some of these things are just not properly constructed from a business model perspective. So when I read the article, I read the interview, I read the statements, it's interesting. My summary is Tesla chose technology that can actually get the scale and actually have a global robotaxi network that at scale, that would actually moves commerce, that moves people, that moves packages from existing taxi services today to their service. They developed a business model and the cost model that will move TAM, total available market, that will move TAM to their product, shift it away from other products. The same thing they're doing with the semi as well. They're going to get the cost per mile down, whether it's the semi or whether it's the robotaxi, and you're going to start seeing stuff from rail moving the trucking. And it's going to take time. It's going to be over a series of years. Just like with robotaxis, it's going to take time, but Tesla already has a lot of vehicles out there, and they'll get ramped up much more quickly than anything could conventionally do. And most of the things out there right now running around giving rides will never get to mass production profitable scale. They won't. Many of them will fail. And why do we know this? The same thing played out with EV. We just saw it with EV. How many Tesla killers were announced between 2015 and 2024? And in 2023 and 2024, Legacy Auto publicly capitulated and said, look, everything we've been trying to do for the last 5 years is essentially been a swing and miss in EV. Like, we don't have this figured out. We have to go back to the lab. We're reducing our CapEx. We're reducing our supply. And that's what happened. The same model is playing out here right now. Everybody thinks they have a solution. Everybody kicks a couple of units out. Everybody's running in local geographies and says, look at us. But if you look at the business model, if you look at the underlying business model, one is getting the cost per mile that you see today. They're not at scale. Their costs are so bad because they're not at scale. They're not even recouping a lot of not having the driver in there yet because their scale's so low. So you look at what Tesla's building with Robotaxi. It's not an incremental thing. It goes back to the more affordable vehicle conversation. Tesla wouldn't be doing the more affordable vehicles if it was a 5 or 10% reduction. That's what everybody else can do. That's called the red ocean. Tesla's going to be, I think they're going to take it down, 5x, 10x lower, quite frankly, than the cost, or more than the cost per miles you see today of other, not only manned driving, as well as existing low volume robotaxis today. So I think it comes down to the business model and the technology that can actually scale. And that's what doesn't come out in any of these conversations. History will show what actually worked. The question is, where were you when you needed to make that prediction and you needed to make that call of where to put the chips on? Again, by the way, and there's not going to be one winner. It's not going to be Tesla alone. Let's be very clear on that. I'm not saying that at all. None of us are saying that. But you really have to think about the business model. You have to think about not only market share, but margin share. What is the share of available margin on these services? And then you also have to think about TAM shifts in the future. If you make the cost structure so low, you're going to be bringing goods and services that existed in other realms into your business that never would have put a package inside of a robotaxi before are going to do it now.
Yeah, these
Sorry,
insults
that was
by
a little
this
bit long and drawn out.
this ex-CEO of Waymo just doesn't fall, just falls flat, because did Waymo actually create a purpose-built robotaxi? No, they took an existing car. Does it have self-presenting doors, like really designed specifically for a person coming in and out? Do they have an app that's personalized to the user? You walk in and everything's associated with you. And then this idea that they can fake a robo taxi service. Okay, it's like you can pretty well see how it's going to work pretty soon. Okay, so
By
good
the way,
news
there is some valid, like the profile, the vehicle height. Okay, there may be something there, but that's something Tesla will adjust. They'll just adjust it.
It's a trade-off, like you said, with price, so cost production. Okay, but there's some supporters of Tesla, and that's the good news here. You've got this article written by Brooke Crothers. He's the founder of CNET and Forbes. Steering clear of Tesla, you might miss the future of self-driving. He said, while GM's and Ford's ADAS are very good, they're not at the level of Tesla's FSD. FSD is the game changer. No other US-based automaker can match it. In my experience, testing various ADAS, it can perform in some scenarios similar to Waymo driverless taxi, and that's saying a lot. I've had the chance to use both Waymo driverless vehicles and the new Tesla Model Y. Surprised how capable the new Y was with FSD version 13. The difference between Tesla and the rest is local roads and back streets. This is where competing automakers throw in the towel. The beauty of an autonomous driving system like FSD is that it's always focused, never distracted. Contrast that with all the drivers in LA texting and driving. Okay, so, and then also Kim Kardashian came out and she started posting even new photos of herself with the Cybertruck and Optimus robot, 357 million followers. I know she loves the Cybertruck. This is great that she did this. There's a lot of current, people hating on the Cybertruck and painting on it and so forth and attacking owners. I think she's, single-handedly here with this post saying Cybertrucks are cool, Tesla's cool, and Tesla bots are cool. So she posted this.
Yeah, Herbert, there's going to be some short-term noise that's going to be in the system. And the question is, how persistent is it and what's the size of it? And unfortunately, with the Model Y changeover, it's going to take a bit of time for the markets to see the full picture. By the way, you're going to see thousands of articles when Tesla posts. You're going to have Rolling Stone, you're going to have Time Magazine covering Tesla's production numbers. Just to be clear, in a couple of weeks, you're going to have publications that never covered Tesla production numbers, covering Tesla production numbers just because of the CEO and his linkage now, in politics and his literally the highest profile, in the world in terms of what he's doing in politics. But yet we have to separate the noise from what's actually happening. And the other thing you have to do is you have to think about what's inside of the noise. And what's inside of the noise is tremendous amounts. The whole thing is built on misinformation. You can disagree politically with certain things, but the question is what's the information? What's the data? They're talking, the things that are being discussed, they're not actually grounded in real data. I'm not even talking about the policies. I'm talking about what they're actually trying to do to Tesla and what they're trying to do to the brand. The early adopters of Tesla were people that were literally, holding up Elon Musk and his company and teams of being literally the leaders of driving clean energy solutions. And then to be defacing those products or being able to try to drive the demand down of those products when it's literally half the supply of EVs in the United States are Teslas. If you got your wish and you took them out of existence you're going to be selling half as many EVs. The others don't have production capacity to meet that, or they have good products at the right price points to actually meet it. So you're actually I thought climate change was an existential threat. So anyway, I know we're getting a little bit off track, but there's supporters of the brand, there's detractors of the brand. What you see on social media, you're going to see both extremes. Kim Kardashian, whoever else, positive, they have a lot of followers. You're going to see one extreme. You're going to see other extremes as well. But these are kind of smaller pockets. Most of the world is not sitting and trolling, scrolling through politics on X every minute of the day. Most of the world is not seeing this. Most of the world is, what's the price point? What's the best value for my money? What keeps my family safe? And what's forward from a technology perspective in the future? And that's where Tesla is executing and doing very well. That's, if you're following the company, we have to keep our eye on Tesla's innovation and their execution. And then, you know, this noise will sort itself out over time. You can look at prior brand blowups in the past, whether it's Target or whether it's Bud Light or whether it's all these different things in the past, and you can kind of see their longevity and what they do. You can also see how the companies respond as well. So I think it's really important for, you know, everybody just remain focused, Tesla to remain focused, and the mission hasn't changed. And that's the key. And I think once people understand that the mission is, you should be actually supporting this, because this is to me one of the biggest platforms out there, which is how do we accelerate sustainable energy?
Okay, great points. So tax on Tesla is increasing, but most of them are not even built on any real facts. And that's the key thing, is I think as supporters, we just need to be out there making sure that, you know, can you just not play fair? Mark Rober does his 10 million views, and it was not even a real thing. You got this ex-CEO Waymo talking about that they can fake it. Well, why don't you explain exactly what you're expecting and why? And let's go see if Tesla fakes it. What did you actually do differently? So we need to be vigilant about this. Thank you so much, Jeff. Love your perspective all the time. Follow Jeff on his X account at the Jeff Lutz. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.